All right, on today's video, we are going to be doing the first shots with the EAA Girsan Disruptor X. Now, this gun is clear, no mag, nothing in the chamber. Now, if you have been a long-time subscriber to this channel, this gun probably looks a little familiar. And that is because at SHOT Show 2024, EAA debuted the original Disruptor, and they sent this out to the channel shortly after SHOT. I've done quite a few videos on this, and this is one of my favorite guns of 2024. So both of these guns look quite different from each other. Let's talk about what's different with the X series. So EAA just recently released this X series of pistols, and I just did an unboxing video and a first shots video with the Influencer X. Now, one thing that stands out with the X series of pistols, they all pretty much have this black and tungsten two-tone finish. So the difference between the Disruptor X and the original Disruptor, other than the two-tone finish, is you do have some porting on the slides. So you've got some pretty large ports up here in the top. You've got 3 ports up here in the front on both sides. And that is pretty much the difference between the Disruptor and the Disruptor X. Now, I did a full unboxing video on this Disruptor X. We went over everything that comes in the box. We went over all the specs. All that was covered in that video, and I will pin it at the end of this video if you want to go back and check that out. If you choose not to, I'm going to roll the spec sheet in now, and you can pause it and check it out. Now, everyone that watches the channel knows that I am a reloader, but I do realize that a lot of you do not reload your own ammunition, so we are going to be shooting quite a bit of factory ammo through this gun today for the first shots video. We're going to be running some 115 grain Federal American Eagle. We're going to be running quite a bit of the Arms Corps 115 grain, and we are also going to run some CCI 115 grain Blazers, and of course, we'll be running my reloads. So let's head out to the range, start shooting a bunch of rounds downrange, and we'll come back here and talk about the gun as the video goes on. Now, we started off shooting a couple 5-shot groups with the 115 grain Federal American Eagle. We were set up at 10 yards. We were shooting off a bag just to take away operator error. And I was not getting the best groups, but then again, I am not the best iron sight shooter, and we are going to be putting an optic and a light on this gun when we do the full review on it. Now, the weather wasn't the greatest. It was only 28 degrees. We had 15-mile-an-hour winds, so the target stand was moving a little bit in the wind. What I did notice was the Disruptor X was shooting a little bit high and to the right. Now, the rear sight on this is not adjustable. In fact, you're going to lose the rear sight when you remove the cover plate for the optic. Now, the front sight, you could drift it left or right if you wanted to. And speaking of the sights, this has 3-dot white sights. Now let's start talking about the features on the Disruptor X. We'll just start at the top and work our way down. Now, like I said, this is optic ready. And this is cut for the RMSC footprint. You will remove 2 screws here in the top, remove the cover plate, and you can pretty much mount any optic with the RMSC footprint. So the Holosun 407K, the Zulisi Otter, the Gideon Optics Judge, there are a lot of different RMSC footprint dots on the market now. We already talked about the lightning cuts or the slide ports, whatever you want to call them. You do have them here in the top. You got the 3 out here on the front. And I did forget to mention, you also do have some lightning cuts here in the side. Now, speaking of the slide, the Disruptor X has got some really nice serrations on here. They're cut in pretty deep. Very easy to rack this from the front or the rear. And you've got 3 right here in the front. You've got another 3 right here. And then you've got all of this in the back. So they got really nice serrations and quite the upgrade from the original Disruptor slide, you've got the serrations here in the back, but you've only got a little bit right here in the front. And that was one of my complaints with the slide on the original Disruptor. So obviously they've taken care of that issue with the X series. Now, one other really cool thing that I can tell so far from what I've tried is the actual Disruptor slide from the original will work on the X frame and vice versa. You can take the X slide and run it on the original Disruptor frame. So if that's a video you guys would like to see, we'll do a comparison, a Disruptor versus Disruptor X video. We can actually do that. I think it would be kind of cool. Now, if we move out to the front, the Disruptor X has a threaded barrel on it, just like the Disruptor. It does come with a thread protector, and it is 1/2 by 28 thread pitch. So you can run this suppressed. You could run it with a comp. You got a couple different options there with the threaded barrel on the Disruptor X. Now we'll start talking about the frame. And I am a left-handed shooter, and that is one of the biggest reasons the Disruptor was one of my favorite guns of 2024. Is just like the Disruptor X is fully ambi. So you do have ambi, slide lock, slide release. Now the mag release is also ambi. You can switch it from the left side to the right side. Obviously, I've already switched mine over. Little bit of a pain in the butt to switch it around, but it's not too bad. Now let's talk about field stripping the Disruptor X, and it is exactly the same as the original Disruptor. You are going to lock your slide back to the rear. You have your takedown lever here. You're going to flip that down. You're going to drop the slide. You're going to pull the trigger, and the slide will come right off. Now the Disruptor X also has a rail out here on the front, so if you want to mount a light or a laser, you also have that option. And we will be mounting a light on this in the review video. Now let's start talking about the frame and the texture on the frame. As you can see, it's all pretty smooth, all up through the top here, right here on the back. And one of my complaints on that is I wish with the X series that they would have put some sort of thumb ledge out here with some stippling on it, but everything is smooth. So that will be a complaint quite a few people have, is there's really not a place to put the thumb with some stippling out here. Now, other than that, I do like how this gun feels in my hand. It's exactly the same as the Disruptor. I think it's very comfortable to shoot. Got a pretty nice undercut right here, and you've got your stippling on the sides, on your back strap, and your back strap is replaceable. It comes with 3 different back straps, and you do have the same texturing here in the front. So the gun is very comfortable. I would just like to see a little bit of that out there on the front where you put your thumb. So maybe in the future with the Disruptor, we'll see them change that. Now, if you're one of the shooters that puts their finger across the front of the trigger guard, you do have some serrations there. Now I want to dive into the magazine on this, because this is another reason why the Disruptor and the Disruptor X feel so good in my hand. So this does only come with one 17-round magazine. If you do have the original Disruptor, the magazines from that gun will work in the X. Now that is just something with EAA. They only ship one magazine with their guns, but that is also how they keep the cost down on the guns, and we will get into the cost of this one here in a little bit. Now, what I want to talk about, like I said, the magazine is 17 rounds. This actually has like a sleeve on it, and once it's down on there, it locks in nice and tight, and this mag is empty and the gun is empty. But I've got pretty large hands, so I actually like having this sleeve on here, or spacer, whatever you want to call it, because my pinky does kind of hit the top of it, But that is one of the reasons why this gun feels so good in my hand, especially having large hands. And when you do order extra magazines from EAA, they do come with the sleeve. All right, I'm going to show you that this gun is clear. There is no mag, nothing in the chamber. Let's talk about the trigger on the Disruptor X. We dove pretty deep into the trigger in the unboxing video, but I'm going to show you here. You got quite a bit of take up. It's very smooth take up. It's not gritty. It's not mushy. You hit your wall, and it's just a really nice, clean break. I really do like the trigger in this and the original Disruptor. I'll show you the reset. Not very long at all. It's not the shortest reset, but it's pretty good. And it's very tactile and audible, as you can tell. And you got that nice clean break. Now, we talked about it in the unboxing video. The trigger on the Disruptor X is a little heavy. It was falling between 6 and 7 pounds. And I thought that the actual original trigger in the Disruptor was lighter than that, but I actually got the gauge out. We tested both of them, and they were both pulling the same. Now, even though this gun now has a couple hundred rounds on it, the trigger is still pulling around 6 to 6.5 pounds. So, a little bit of a heavy trigger for a striker fired gun, but you do not notice it, especially once you start shooting it at the range. I think you're actually going to really like the trigger in the Disruptor X. All right, my first impressions of the Disruptor X. I really like this gun, which is really no surprise because, like I said at the beginning of the video, the original Disruptor was one of my favorite guns of 2024. Now, I told you at the end of the video I was going to tell you how much this Disruptor X is going to set you back, and it has an MSRP of $449, so the street price will definitely be a little bit lower. Now, do I think it's worth it? Absolutely. You are getting an optics-ready gun. You got a threaded barrel. You've got really nice serrations on the slide. Let's face it, it's just a good-looking gun. That tungsten and black looks really good together. And if you're a left-handed shooter, this is a fully ambi gun, which is really nice. You do have the rail if you want to add a light or a laser, and I think it's a great deal. Now let's talk about reliability, and we had one hiccup out of 250 rounds, and it was with the Federal 115 grain. I had a mag loaded with 17 rounds. We loaded off the slide lock slide release and fired the first round, and the second round jammed right into the bottom of the feed lip on the barrel, and that caused me to have to strip the mag and clear the gun. So we did have one malfunction today with the gun. Now with the arms core ammo, the blazer ammo, my reloads, we had no issues, but I do want to make you aware that we did have one hiccup with the Disruptor today. Now, before we head out to the range to do the full review, I am going to tear this down. I'm going to do a full cleaning. We will be mounting an optic. We'll be putting a light on it. And one thing I'm going to do while I have it tore down is I'm going to take some Flitz metal polish and my Dremel tool, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to clean up the feed ramp, the feed lip real well on the barrel. I do that with pretty much all the guns that I get, and hopefully that will make it so we never have one of those feeding issues again. So stay tuned. The full review is coming, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.